We really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmets casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Tick your tech. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just dropped. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
FantasyFling with DFS Army. We are doing the week 4 weekend review, Millie Maker review, a little bit of MME strategy, and I got a sweet treat for y'all, so stay tuned. So let's start it off with the Millie Maker review. This is over at dfsarmy.com. We're at this every week. So the Millie Maker week 4, pretty wild. And this was one of those weeks where I just feel like there's so much content during the week and everyone has gotten to be so sharp that sometimes we overthink it. This game environment, oh my gosh, there's no way that this is going to be as expected. And people start fading the best game environment because we have seen it fail time and time again. And then yet the game actually does go off. It hits the over. And the winning stack out of that game ends up being a contrarian stack. So that's exactly what happened with this game. Fortunately for Michael T0717, Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs, it was the highest scoring stack on the slate. And there was one that was close behind it. And oh, by the way, it was also in this lineup. So this lineup had 2 stacks. Now, kind of crazy because Buffalo scored 48 points. This game total hit 68 points, and it was just a QB +1. So it was just Josh Allen had 4 touchdowns, 5 total, 4 passing touchdowns. 2 of them went to Diggs. One of them went to Gabe Davis, I believe. But nonetheless, he had 39 points. Stephon Diggs had 39 points as well. So that stack absolutely smashed. Total of 78.5 points. And then we had a secondary stack. Now, this is a constant. Say what you want about QB +1, QB +2. Maybe if you get crazy with it, silly for the Millie, QB +3. Secondary stacks, they have been constant in every single winning Millie Maker build through 4 weeks. We've had some sort of secondary stack. So if my whole thought process for the Millie Maker is if you are not doing a secondary stack, what are you doing? So we saw it like 60% of the time in 2022. There was some sort of secondary stack. Right now, it's 100% of the time through 4 weeks. So the stack that brought it home outside of the main stack was a game stack, a secondary stack. Christian McCaffrey, Michael Wilson, less than 1% owned Michael Wilson. Christian McCaffrey is obviously chalk as we'll get into it. But yeah, 78.3 points just behind the Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs stack. So total points, 156 points, 44% total ownership, and we'll get right into ownership. As I said, Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen was only 6% owned in this game. What? In that matchup, 6% owned. Stephon Diggs only 12% owned. Wow. So the stack combined for a little over 18%. And just overall, a very contrarian lineup. And, one thing I just want to point out here with Christian McCaffrey, oftentimes, I think this is one of the biggest mistakes that most DFS players will make in like large field GPPs. There's like, no, I can't play Christian McCaffrey. He's too chalky. He's going to be 25% owned. Can't play Adam Thielen. He's going to be 29% owned. Look at the whole lineup, 104%. So well under the average. And you eat good chalk and you look for places that get different. So Josh Allen, under-owned. I couldn't believe it. I had a hard time believing it when I was seeing it Sunday morning. I didn't really think it was going to be that way when it was all said and done. But it ended up being the case. So contrarian, Nico Collins, contrarian, Michael Wilson. Oh my gosh. The definition of contrarian, less than 1% owned. Chargers D. So yes, Khalil Herbert and Stephon Diggs. So plenty of ways to get different. And these aren't stupid plays. Khalil Herbert was in a smash spot going against the Broncos D that had been gashed for 8 touchdowns the week before. The only concern with Khalil Herbert was Roshan Johnson get carries, right? But it was a smash matchup. Nico Collins, we know he's still the number one in the offense despite a bad game. Stud coming off a dud, and Pat Fryman. This lineup would have scored well over two. It probably would have been 250, maybe even 260 if Fryman doesn't get hurt. So, not incredibly high owned considering what a good spot it was for him. He got hurt. That's just what happens. But yeah, overall, very good contrarian lineup. And, the leverage plays kind of speak for themselves here. Not going to spend too much time on that. But what really stood out to me was just overall pricing and value from this contest. This is now the 4th week in a row where the whole 50,000 salary was not spent. That's just crazy. This only happened like 4 times in all of 2022. We're now 4 for 4. So just goes to show you do not need to spend all 50,000. And then I think what was the craziest thing about this lineup to me that really stood out when I was crunching the numbers, Josh Allen, 8,200, Christian McCaffrey, 9,200, Stephon Diggs, 8,100. You have 25-5 with 3 players. So 6 other spots left, and you've already spent over half your salary. And then the winning build didn't even spend all the salary. What? It's very rare that you will see 1, 2, 3 guys at 3K in a lineup. Also, 2 guys at 4K and a 5K guy. Like, these builds rarely ever get there. And you're going to need a ceiling type performance from your studs. Josh Allen, almost, 5X. Christian McCaffrey, over 5X. Stephon Diggs, same as Josh Allen. So these studs have to get there. And then you need Nico Collins. You need Michael Wilson. You need a couple of these guys to just really smash their value. Incredible, super crazy to see that. And then, as overall ceiling, I think one thing that kind of stands out about this lineup, first 2 weeks, winning Millie Maker build under 234 points. Now, kind of just for studying years of past Millie Maker winners, most of the time when it was over 250, it was QB +2. That is no longer the case, at least this season so far. It's been QB +1. QB +1 pretty much dominated most of last year. There was some QB +2. It was, it kind of went back and forth. But normally when you saw QB +1, it was lower scoring weeks. So you're now starting to see QB +1 with higher scoring weeks. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you get a lot of these quarterbacks are so mobile, like a Josh Allen. Diggs may have had a couple touchdowns and Gabe Davis got one, but Gabe Davis didn't get 2. Josh Allen ran one in. So that is something to keep in mind going forward. These rushing quarterbacks, they kind of cap having to have the QB +2 because they bring so much floor and ceiling with their own rushing ability. So I found that to be a bit fascinating, but nonetheless, the secondary stack that has been a constant. So definitely, if you're doing QB +1, you're doing QB +2. Regardless, you should be looking to get another secondary stack in there. So we are going to go over to Fantasy Labs. One of the questions I get from time to time is, how do we attack the afternoon slate? How do we attack the 4 game slate? Now, it's been kind of lopsided. It's obviously a very small slate. It reminds me a lot of USFL and XFL, which I really like. And, I've come to really love these small slates because much like a showdown, you have less that you have to get right. So on a 10 game slate, on a 12 game slate, a 13 game slate, it can be really hard to nail everything to hit the nuts. On these smaller slates, you have less to get right. So let's kind of look and see what happened, what worked, what didn't work. So you will see here, a Joshua Dobbs stack took this down. And, I found this to be really impressive. 3 game slate, 210 points. But yeah, when you have a Christian McCaffrey who scores 51 of those, that is obviously going to be conducive to a lot higher scoring. So Joshua Dobbs, only a +1. So you had Joshua Dobbs and Michael Wilson. So just the difference here. In like the Millie Maker, for example, he's less than 1% owned. But yeah, on a 3-game slate, almost 5% of the field had Michael Wilson. So Michael Wilson was kind of had to have it score here in this game environment. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey absolutely smashed 51 points. And the thing I like about this Michael Wilson play is, if you think about it, it makes sense, right? They're going to be playing from behind. They're going to be throwing a lot. Garbage time. Garbage time, garbage time, garbage time. Well, he ended up getting 2 touchdowns. He blocks well. He's a really good rookie. He just hasn't really showed it until now. And I think once they get a legit quarterback, you're going to see a lot more Michael Wilson. But Josh Jacobs, I felt, was a really solid play with Aiden O'Connell getting the start. We kind of talked about that on the pre-lock. If you got a rookie quarterback, you should probably run the ball. So they certainly did that. And Josh Jacobs smashed overall. Little overpriced, but still almost 28 points. So love that. And by the way, pre-lock, we do live before lock. Gave out a lot of good calls on that show. We hit a parlay. One of our members hit a 5-leg, like anytime touchdown parlay. Via DFS Army VIPs only. So use code FantasyFling for 10% off of a VIP subscription. You get all the VIP shows. So Keenan Allen, didn't really get there for like a large field GPP on a main slate, but yeah, 12 points. That'll do it in a 3-game slate. And Brandon Ayuk, he smashed. Debo was in the game, didn't matter. He still had a great game. Gerald Everett and Jake Ferguson. That's one thing. I think one difference I kind of want to highlight with this afternoon slate is double tight end is definitely in play. I do not rule out double tight end. You're looking for ways to get different. Sometimes it's optimal to get a couple of these cheapos in here, especially if one really smashes. So, the smaller slates, you have to look for different ways to get different. So that was it that took down this lineup. I'm not really going to go too much into MME for this one because I kind of want to look at some other MME for the main slates. Don't want to have this too long, but and let's also look at what won the mini max. So Brock Purdy, and by the way, real quick here, Brock Purdy obviously is what won in the mini max, and it's just 2 points behind what won it overall. But Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk, and then you had a Christian McCaffrey, so he obviously correlates well. And on these small slates, we don't worry about it anyway, right? You're going to play a stud like this. You're going to play a stud like this. You're going to fade a stud like this. That's what you're doing for leverage. So definitely QB +2 with one being Christian McCaffrey and also a receiving back. So it makes sense. Josh Jacobs, Keenan Allen, and then you had Purdy +2 and then 2 bring backs with Michael Wilson, Zach Ertz, and who the fook is that guy? Demario Douglas, less than 1%. And Dallas D smashed 27 points. So one thing I want to point out, and specifically I think for the smaller slates, smaller, max, like 20 max, this is something we talk about Showdown a lot, or, just smaller slates, you kind of want to be open to locking a quarterback in. So for really some positive leverage. In fact, might have been this guy. No, it wasn't. All right, this is going to freeze on me. This is what Fantasy Labs does. All right, gonna make me look like a liar. That's fine. One of these guys had a quarterback locked in, so maybe it was the main slate. But yeah, let's go over to that now. In fact, so we're gonna go to the main slate. We're gonna look at the Millie Maker, some MME strategy, what took, what the pros were doing, and One thing that really stood out to me this week, and maybe we can get Geek to ask Statsational about it on the game plan, but a lot of the top DFS pros did not play the Millie Maker. And when I see it happen from multiple guys who are incredibly well respected and normally play the Millie Maker, it very much makes me wonder. So let's see, Utica. He did play. Or guys that did play maybe played like 2 lineups, for example. So that was something that just stood out to me. Several guys that I normally look up. I think like I want to say like the Fantasy Bros and just like some other top DFS pros, in addition to Statsational and like Osimo. They didn't really play, or they played a couple lineups, and that's just something you just don't see very often. So obviously, it leads me to believe they didn't think they had an edge. They didn't like the slate. But I'm maybe Geek can ask Statsational what was his thought process for that. So obviously, we see here what took it down, but as we went over that, and I want to look at a couple other guys, see kind of what their thought process was, what they did. And then, like I said, we got a special treat for you. So stay tuned. And by the way, if you like watching this show, if this is something you like every week, please hit that like button. It really helps. Comment who you played, how it worked out for you, who you like this week if you've already took a look at the slate, and hit that notification button. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification button so you never miss an episode. So Giant Squid, I was kind of surprised by this. He did QB +1, QB +2, and QBs +3. So he was all about the sacks. And Stafford, Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, and then, he had Christian McCaffrey one-off, some Josh Palmer, so, some cheaper guys, Josh Palmer, Mark Andrews. And, he had QB +3, but no bring back. Sometimes I get the feeling that some of these top guys, they just run the optimizer with no rules at all. And that's how they get QB +1. That's how they get QB +2. That's how they get QB +3 with no bringbacks. Because normally you would think if that game is going off, that's when QB +3 is in effect. And there's probably going to be some sort of bringback. Or they're just thinking, maybe if I play this enough times, eventually a team is just going to blow the doors off the other team and this lineup's going to get here. So don't get me wrong. They still play good plays. Kyron Williams was a good play. Stephon Diggs was a good play. Brandon Ayuk, great game environment. They had a high team total. So, just trying to get pieces from that, but it just makes you wonder. So you saw QB +3 there. Same with Stroud, Nico Collins, Robert Woods, Dalton Schultz. QB +3. This time we got Stroud with QB +2, Nico Collins and Robert Woods. QB +3 again. Still no bring back. Russell Wilson +2, no bring back. Josh Allen +1. And it's kind of as we talked about when we just broke down the Millie Maker, right? Josh Allen +1. Now, the thought process here, maybe he did make a rule, stack Josh Allen with no more than one pass catcher, because he knows Josh Allen is more of a running he's a very good passing quarterback. Don't like mince my words, because I know how people like to run with that, but he's also a running quarterback too, so he's a running threat. Whereas Matthew Stafford, he's a pocket passer, so you can stack him with 3. So just something to point out. A couple things I want to look at real quick on his exposures. So nothing too crazy in it, as far as quarterback. From what I saw, everyone was kind of under 20%. Aiden O'Connell was a guy that I played in cash and GPPs. He got there in cash. If you played him in cash, you cashed, but he didn't have nearly the kind of day to cash and GPPs, but you understand why you play a guy like that. I think he only had 12 points, but if he scores, if he hits 20, that's 5x the salary. And you can have Stephon Diggs, you can have Christian McCaffrey, you can have Kyron Williams, all these guys, you can jam all these studs in, and you're in a great spot to take down a large field GPP. So that's one of those situations, more times than not, he's going to fail. But if he comes in and throws 3 touchdowns, like, you're in the nuts. You're having a great day. So, when you see DFS pros do it, you see that they are looking for positive leverage. Russell Wilson in that game environment, it was a good game environment. So, playing both quarterbacks in that game environment is kind of what you wanted, because it did go off a little bit. And, these guys should have probably been higher on than they were at their price. So, but yeah, nothing too crazy there as far as the quarterbacks, wasn't on the right guys. And that's how it was essentially a losing day. No, it wasn't on, Josh Allen, wasn't on the right guys enough. Josh Jacobs, good play. Rashad White, too much lever there. But yeah, Kyron Williams over double the field. So really getting a lot of exposure with the running backs, over 40%. Tony Pollard, he was a dud, and Christian McCaffrey, great leverage there, 8%. You would have liked more, and then, faded DeAndre Swift, and you could have definitely had more of DeAndre Swift and certainly made it a better day. And then, Devontae Adams, but that makes sense. Like, if you're playing Aiden O'Connell, you're doing some sacks with him and Devontae Adams. Quentin Johnson, no, that's not going to be a good day if you get 24%. Quentin Johnson, even at 3,700, it's not going to win you a GPP. Same with Olave, bad day. So really just kind of the wide receivers is where you were crushed here. So made some good decisions at running back, some of the running backs, but not enough Stephon Diggs under the field on Diggs. And, none of these guys you were over the field on ended up working out. So that's how these things go. But one more guy we're going to look at in the Millie Maker, and then the end of the show, DFS Army special I got for you. It's actually this guy. Could have just clicked in the top 5. Now, McNasty was winning the Millie Maker for a minute. Okay, so top 10. Earlier on was winning the Millie Maker. And pay special attention to the 17 on the end of McNasty. Okay, so 8th overall, beautiful lineup. As we look at here, 15,000 winning with this lineup. Josh Allen, Kyron Williams, Khalil Herbert. So I love the Khalil Herbert play because the Broncos had given up 8 touchdowns the week before, and he was so cheap. Yes, he's splitting with Roschon Johnson, but horrible defense. And I say this as a Broncos fan, horrible defense. But he's 4,700, so who cares? It's the Millie Maker. Get silly for the Millie. It's how you're going to win it. So Josh Allen, Kyron Williams, who was in a smash spot, Khalil Herbert, smash spot, Stephon Diggs to complete the Josh Allen stack. So, right here, absolutely knocking it out of the park. Oh, and AJ Brown, same thing. Nico Collins. Oh my gosh. So this lineup actually easily could have won the Millie Maker, and you see why. 2 mistakes. And Durham Smythe, obviously tight ends do this. I don't know that really Durham Smythe is what buried this lineup. I think, because it was 242, right? It was 10 points behind. I'm not going to go through it right now, but I'm sure if you had just made, so another $300 there. If you found a $4,000 player that scored, 12, I'm sure there was one. Nonetheless, maybe you swap out Durham Smythe for one of the tight ends is always what kills your lineup, just because there's so much variance. So this lineup was so close. It was just these 2 spots that absolutely crushed it. But everywhere else, it was great. And obviously the Quentin Johnson play, I understand it. But it's, for me, that's kind of a Herbert only stack. But overall, really good stuff from this lineup. And, just going over exposures, kind of what I was saying with the 17, McNasty 17. Look at all the exposures here. Josh Allen, 16%, Russell Wilson, Tua, Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, Anthony Richardson. So it's like I say often, there's two ways to skin a cat. I'm going to be way over the field, or I'm just going to be a little over the field. A little over, a little under. Not going to get too crazy on exposures, just really trying to hit that one lineup that can bank, that can win it all, like that lineup almost did. Derrick Henry, 17%. Khalil Herbert, 17%. I love the Derrick Henry play because it's like, okay, everyone thinks Derrick Henry sucks. He's 7,000. When's the last time Derrick Henry is 7,000? Price went way down. And he's still a stud. He's still Derrick Henry. Khalil Herbert, great. And kind of as I was alluding to, and I talked about this on Live Before Lock when I was on with Josiah and Raz. So many times people are like, I don't know who to play. It's a great matchup, but it's a timeshare. I don't know who to play. Well, one's 4,700, one's 4,900. Why don't you play them both? There's a good chance one of them will go off. It ended up being Khalil Herbert. So, yeah, take some shots. Almost won the Millie Maker because of it. Jalen Warren, didn't get there. Miles Sanders crushed a lot of lineups for me too. That's how it goes. Jacobs had a good day, but yeah, as kind of we're seeing, Alexander Madison had a pretty good game actually. Wasn't anywhere near good enough, and then Javonte Williams, he got hurt. He was in line for a good day. Third string running back, Jaleel McLaughlin, waiver wire ad. Very underrated player, came in and smashed, but that could have been Javonte's day. So players get hurt. That's what happens. But 17%. So I'm just going to leave it at that. No player over 17%. Apparently, McNasty 17 believes in 17. All right. Last thing we're going to do, and then we're going to wrap this up. And this originally, it's not my plan. It wasn't my plan to review the flea, but I was listening to DFS Army Showdown Breakdown, another VIP only show, by the way. If you're a DFS Army subscriber, we cross showdowns. It's probably the thing that DFS Army is the best at, is the showdown slates. And Geek, Chief ST, and DFS Up North were chopping it up, and Geek was talking about the flea, and he almost won it. He placed top 5 in the flea, and I just had to look at his lineup. And of course, now Fantasy Labs is going to do what Fantasy Labs does. But I just kind of wanted to review his lineup because obviously smashed the slate by placing top 5. And specifically, the main reason I wanted to review his lineup is because I know a lot of the times on this show, I'm kind of guessing to see, what works for people, what people are doing, what their overall strategy is. But I know just by listening to Geek on so many podcasts and, watching all the back testing streams and watching the Players Club, I know how he thinks, and I know his overall strategy, and he's doing QB +1. That's something he's going to put in the optimizer, QB +1. And just through back testing, we're going to keep it less than 40% on certain players. And, it goes on and on. And if you're a DFS Army VIP, all these settings. If you're not a DFS Army VIP, use code FantasyFling for 10% off VIP subscription to get access to the secret sauce. But I just want to look at his lineup because obviously we know his overall strategy, his principles. So let's break it down. So the top lineup, and we always say it takes one lineup. So we're going to see here, Jalen Hurts wasn't like his smash play. It wasn't, his core play of the week, but it takes one lineup, and he had enough cores with all the rest of his players that this stack that was, just a small exposure ended up making his day and almost, winning the fleet in 50,000, which would have been back-to-back to DFS Army VIPs take it down. But he had Jalen Hurts plus AJ Brown, QB +1, not forcing bringbacks. Kyron Williams, which was one of his core plays. Khalil Herbert, which the boys talked about on Tournament Tactics. It's a Friday GPP tournament strategy show, Stephon Diggs being one of his top plays in that game environment of Miami and Buffalo. So, a lot of course here. Nico Collins, he talked, this was a geek play for sure. He said, Tank Dell getting all the love. I feel like this is a Nico Collins week. These things kind of go back and forth. So, and a Josh Palmer, if Josh Palmer actually catches a touchdown, he had a close one. We're talking about, winning the flea. That's how close it was. Baltimore's D going against a rookie quarterback, contrarian, under 100%, 235 points. Very good lineup. And really, that's all it takes is the one lineup. So looking at his exposures, though, kind of as we said, we were on the good game environments. Anthony Richardson smashed. So that was one of his core plays. Josh Allen over the field on Josh Allen, one of his top plays. Tua, obviously, one side of that game environment got there. Justin Fields, same thing, and Russell Wilson. These were two tournament tactic plays. So you could see, and they both had great games. So you can see, obviously, the exposures there. Keeping the player pool small, getting a little bit of Dorian Thompson, not getting crazy with it. Just enough to have the winning, or, to not tank all your lineups, right? Positive leverage, but not crushing your lineups, which he would have, of course. And Jalen Hurts, same thing. Just enough leverage, just over the field on Jalen Hurts. And that ended up being the one lineup that took it down. You always want to get some Jalen Hurts exposure. There's certain guys that you always want to get. They have enough offensive playmakers. They can break the slate on any given slate. You want to have some exposure to those guys. So James Cook, and I know specifically Geek talked about like making a rule. Maybe for example, Josh Allen lineups, you're obviously not going to have James Cook, but for every Cook lineup that you have, Josh Allen is not in that. So it's kind of just thinking about direct leverage on that slate. What's happening if all the touchdowns are not going, if Josh Allen is not the beneficiary of the touchdowns, where are those going? And they're going to the running back. That's just the way you think about direct leverage. Alvin Kamara, this was a Bobby Ewell special. He was talking about Alvin Kamara coming back. It was a suspension. It was not an injury. He was there in training camp. Well, he smashed at 6,100. So Zach Moss, good play as well. Obviously, that was a high scoring game. Raheem Mostert, you had to get Raheem Mostert after the week before. Well, Devin A-Chain got all the tutties. Again, he had an increased role, but some good plays. And then same thing with Javonte. We talked about injuries. Kyron Williams, that was a core play. I don't think we expected him to be as high owned as he was, or would have been more positive leverage there. And probably the same with DeAndre Swift, but let's kind of finish up at wide receiver here. So, targeting the good game environment and Josh Downs, if you would have known that Anthony Richardson was going to smash, I'm guessing the field would have been more than 10% over him at 3,500. Great play. Didn't get there. That's how these things go. Tyreek Hill, kind of the same thing. Great game environment, but Marvin Mims, he didn't get more involved as we thought, but he still had flashed that big playability. He had a crucial big play. And then, Nico Collins plus 13% leverage there. That was a huge difference. Stephon Diggs, obviously being over the field there. Puka Nacua, same thing. You didn't want to fade Puka Nacua this week. And then obviously if you had some low Jalen Hurts, but you got A.J. Brown in those stacks, and that's what mattered. All it takes is one lineup to do it. And that's what did it for this lineup that almost took down the fleet. So I think that's going to do it. I like to incorporate a little bit of DFS Army takedowns or near takedowns in there when I can. And we'll see y'all next week. If you are a DFS Army VIP, keep a lookout for my cash game strategy video. I think I'm going to drop that a little bit earlier this week. So keep an eye out for that in the Discord. If you're not a DFS Army VIP, that's all right. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And also hit that notification button. We'll see you all next week.